Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the best sports show in Kansas City. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW Radio, where sports come alive. Join your hosts, the awesome voice, and Coach 24 as they dive into the latest sports news, analysis, and excitement. From the biggest games to the most thrilling moments, they've got it all covered. So sit back, relax, and get ready for an hour of unbeatable sports action. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW Radio.
Welcome, sports fans, and welcome to the Weekend Eve. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW, and it is Memorial Day weekend, so if you guys are doing any traveling, please be safe. Coach 24, my brother with another mother, Darwin Penny, he will be back in town this weekend after spending several weeks in Mexico scouting. We haven't communicated as much as we'd like, but he has been very, very busy down there, and I'm welcoming him back with open arms because I definitely miss him and would love for him to come back on the show sometime. But we know the situation. And running the show behind the scenes, Mr. DJ Scatter, George Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you doing this evening?
Well, I tell you, I'm doing just fine this evening.
Now, we wasn't here last week because somebody was becoming a doctor.
Oh, yes, my granddaughter, Raylan Wales, she got her doctorate in physical therapy from USC. So I was out there with the Trojans last year in the big stadium, and it was a great time. We had a lot of fun, and it was just an honor to be there to see, knowing the hard work that she's put in and the time that it's paid off for. So it was great.
Oh, I bet you guys were so proud. I mean, grandparents of a grandchild that is a doctorate, has the PhD. Yeah.
It doesn't get much better than that.
No, it doesn't. So maybe she will come out here and sometimes check out the Kansas City Panthers team in case they have a few bumps and bruises and everything else, as we are introducing Coach Jimmy Ross. He is the head coach of the Kansas City Panthers and also the commissioner of the Central Midwest Football League. Mr. Ross, how are you doing this evening?
Wonderful. Thank you, Brian, for having me on the show, you guys. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Glad to be back.
Absolutely, and we enjoy having you on the show. You've been extremely busy, and you've been extremely busy winning football games.
Yes, we have. I know you wanted one of the other players on tonight, but we got film session going on. So when I rush out of here, I'll be heading over there for film session. So
absolutely,
and we're winning.
Yep, and it was John Zeno. So hopefully we can get him on the show sometime later on.
I promise I will get him on the show.
Okay, that sounds great. We can do that. So that's why we have Coach Ross tonight, and only Coach Ross, because actually the guys had a day off on Tuesday. There was a few people that was out there, and just kind of had it easy and needed kind of a break. You guys have had a 6-week schedule where you guys virtually have played every week for the last month and a half. So tell me this, and you are undefeated, that you are technically second place in the Gateway Conference?
That is correct.
So you are tied with the Tulsa? St. Louis Falcons. St. Louis Falcons.
Yes.
And in 2 weeks, you guys will be playing, and you guys will pretty much, as long as you guys keep going down the field, scoring and everything, as you would say, that game will decide the number one seed, at least in that conference.
Well, and the Cyclones are still right there, one game behind us both, and Cyclones get to play the Falcons a week before we do. So anything is up in the air at this point right now. I wouldn't want to call that game. Let's see who put a wager on it. I just wouldn't.
Yeah, I tell you what, I would love to be there, but excuse me. But obviously, it'll be in St. Louis, so
Yes.
I'm not going to be able to make it. But saying that, you guys will have so-called a bye week, a actual forfeit because one of the teams had dropped out, the Central Illinois Cougars.
Correct.
So with that, how is, because you're going to have this week off because it's
Excuse me.
the holidays.
Right.
Every team is off.
Correct.
But you will also have an extra week off. Will that benefit you, or will that kind of make things a little more difficult for you?
Personally, I think it's going to benefit us, and the reason why we're not really taking a break, we just won't have a game. We're still going to practice our normal practice days. We'll ramp up the conditioning and some of the drills. We have some nicks and bruises too, so the guys gave me everything that they could give me for this first part of the season, and so they've earned the right to have that one day off that I gave them, and so we'll heal up a little bit, and then we'll be able to go for that second half push.
Absolutely. So, and that push will definitely be key. Now, saying this, we have been discussing the championship game, so we needed I've been wanting a date and a time. Mm-hmm. So, what date is the championship game?
Oh, Brian, I was looking at that. I believe it's August 2nd.
August 2nd. Okay. And so the site is still to be determined.
The site will be announced as of next week.
Okay.
Right
so
now we have 3 locations in mind, and we're going to see who gives us the best deal.
We'll just keep those. I know usually most other people will go, well, where's the 3 places and blah blah. We'll keep them silent for right now, and then next week when you disclose it, then I will announce it, or I'll have one of the other coaches when they come on the show. They can let us know any given Sunday.
Right.
So definitely. So, what has been the bright spot in your season so far?
There was some question before when we put this roster together, because it's such a huge change from last year, and I think I was a little bit concerned on how fast we could get the guys to play as one. When you bring guys from different teams and some guys from college and some with no college experience. I mean, we turned it around so fast, and I've seen people put teams together like this, and they struggle with getting the guys to buy in and play as one. But it kind of happened very quickly with us, so they're starting to know each other's habits and know each other's what they're going to do, the person next to them and stuff like that. So I think that's been one of the things that surprised me the most, and we work very hard to try to get that chemistry going.
And so I know your defense is roughly like the second or third best defense in the league.
Correct.
What is the key to your defense?
Well, I think we practice with intensity, and we just keep reminding them that basically we're a grit team. I talked about grit and grind early in the off season, and everything is with a sense of purpose, and I think that's the reason why they're successful. They're gritty, just like I wanted them to be.
Right. Absolutely. Now, saying that, you have lost a couple of key defensive players trying out for the St. Joseph Goats. For people who don't know, this is an arena team, and so Keyshawn Garrett and Tenacious Purifoy. I got that right.
Yeah.
So they left. So how does that affect your team? Because I know Keyshawn was a huge safety I mean, a huge player playing safety, and Tenacious was a linebacker. So how do you replace those two gentlemen?
Well, I mean, you have to, but you really can't duplicate those two guys. The next two guys up, we have just as much faith in them as well. They've been studying behind those two guys. I don't think we fall off at all, but you really can't replace Tenacious or Keyshawn. They're just they're that good. So
Yeah, absolutely. They were, and Keyshawn had been on our show. Unfortunately, Tenacious didn't get that opportunity. Actually, I'm going to try to get those two guys with Colston, who is the head coach of the Goats, and
Right.
have him come on the show sometime. So saying this, you know, oh my gosh, I had my question and, and it slipped. So, well, I know what the question was.
Okay.
So because of this, I know that you've had a lot of players, so you have been able to have a lot of like bench players and so it's not like you've got 11 guys and you have to play all 11 guys.
Right.
You have a pretty good and deep bench.
correct. We recruited. You have to understand that we played quite a few number twos in our last game when we went to Arkansas, and I'm proud of those guys. There's a lot of teams that won't go past a certain number on the depth chart, and then when injuries take its toll, those guys aren't ready to play. So what we've been able to do is, find those situations where we can get guys in and take some pressure off of some of the starters, and that depth chart changes. I mean, we talk about the depth chart, every week as coaches on the call, and it fluctuates constantly, whether it be attendance or performance at practice or last game played. But a lot of our number twos actually could be starters with some of the other teams.
Absolutely, because I am at your practices and stuff. So how key is the coaching with that? Because you pretty much handled the offense, but Coach Webb, Coach Penix, Coach Holloway are the defensive coaches. How key are them in the development of your defense?
Coach Webb and I, we talk about the defense, so it's not like I'm not hands-on with the defense. I mean, it's all me.
Right, I get that.
But Coach Webb, he does a fantastic job, and the players, we're open for feedback from our players because sometimes they'll beat us to the punch on looking at film and bringing suggestions and ideas, and I think that's what makes this team unique, is that it's everyone's unselfish.
Yes, and I'm gonna say this: the past few years, that team camaraderie has really been slacking, and this year, it has been a pleasant surprise.
Well, one of the things we did in the off season, in previous past, and like I said, we did it. I know a lot of other teams did it. You sat back and accepted what came to you, but this time, after last season, we strengthened up the coaching staff and we said, okay, let's go get the guys that we want. Let's put this wish list together and let's go out and grind and get this wish list and put it together and make it a reality. And we were blessed enough to be able to do that. So the way we went about it, we had phone calls with every single incoming player and did interviews and tried to get a vouch of their character and talk to some of their former teammates or former coaches. And we weren't looking for the best players. We were looking for the right players.
And sometimes getting that right player doesn't necessarily mean he was the best player.
Correct.
So so what makes them unique?
Well, like I said, we didn't want the me guys. We've had that before, and we wanted guys that could be able to handle the tough criticism and to be able to be pushed hard. And I think early on I tested them several times and just see what that breaking point was as far as conditioning. And I said, if you're going to quit on me, then this might as well be the time you're going to do it. And the voices started shouting out, we're not built like that, Coach. That's all you got. So,
Yep.
So it was special from early on.
Yeah, and so trying to get your team all together, and I know that life happens. You got men who have jobs. We have jobs, and we come
Yes.
rushing out there and everything. How do you try to maintain the attendance and the discipline of everybody trying to make it out there?
It's rough, but we incorporated a rule that we understand that we can't hold guys to always be there on time, but when you get there, act like you're late, because you are late. But we know they get off at different times of the day and stuff like that. So it's not really about how long you spend at practice. It's about the quality of work you put in at practice. It's about the effort and intensity that we provide. And, if there's a dead spot, then we try to, fill that dead spot, and it's generally me that'll be like, okay, this group take off. It just happened to get caught that time having a dead time.
Gotcha.
We try to have timed practices. Coach Webb and myself, will get together and figure out what the agenda is going to be, see what each side wants to work on specifically, and then we try to do that.
Yep. And so we've been talking about the defense, how awesome it is. The offense is slowly getting there. They had season high 29 points against the War Cats. What has been improving on the offensive side to get them to score more points? Because you guys have actually been like the Royals, phenomenal pitching, but they don't get a lot of runs, but they get those runs when they absolutely need it. So what are you guys doing to get that offense going?
Well, I'm trying not to say too much, but say enough for you. Okay. There's no reason in opening up and running 60 or 70 plays. Okay. You have to understand that some of these teams that you have to play chess with, and that you're going to see them again in the playoffs. So we're slowly opening up the playbook. Just it depends on who we play and what we want to do. As far as I'm concerned, I'm not really high on trying to get a whole lot of points. I just want to win the game. And you have to understand, too, that now that people have seen that we have a better team, then they're going to play us tougher. So by the time we're seeing people now, they've had a chance to make adjustments as well. So if we score 2 points and that's all the offense scores, 2 points, I expect my defense to protect those 2 points. That's just how it is. So it doesn't matter if we score 10, 50, or whatever.
Right.
We just want to win the game.
I get that. So how much of your playbook, so-called, because like Andy Reid does that too. He does, if he knows he's going to play a team in the playoffs, he's not going to show everything to them in week 2. So
Correct.
Roughly what's the percentage of your offensive plays have you showed off?
Brian, I really can't really disclose that. I want people out there to continue guessing.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Hey, but I still have to ask that question.
Maybe I'll say that we have opened up 80% so they can think that's all we got.
Now you've had some players in the past that have been malcontents. and you have brought them back, and they have actually have become changed men. How did that resonate, especially like Piero, because I know that he had been struggling, the last few years and stuff like that, but then you brought him back. Does you having faith in what they are going to give you, does that help with the camaraderie of the team?
There was some this time around. First, let me say, he's always been a good man. Okay, and I from day one, I've loved him. Like a son. He was just a bad son at that time, but remarkable player. The reason why I brought him back, he went under the same protocol as a new player, which we had a sit down with him as well, about our expectations, and this is what's going to happen if these issues arise. One of the things that I've learned, like going through last year where I had a team full of newbies and we were so young, is that a lot of them lack a lot of discipline, and it just wasn't enough heads around to be able to mentor and feed into those young men. It's okay to have a team of a few, and then you can maintain those guys. But if you have a whole team of them, it just gets out of hand. So when we chopped this team up after last season, that's why it was important to get good character and level-headed men on this squad, so that we can be able to help those that struggle a little bit with, their emotions. So.
And it has resonated because usually in semi-pro, or as Coach Webb will say, adult amateur football, they're usually, when there is a challenge, an issue going on, usually teams will argue with each other. Not only do they have, not only will they get penalties on the field, but then they'll start barking at each other. And that is the one thing, when I have been announcing the football games, that I have definitely seen was the less of that, and the fact that when you have a little bit of adversity to face and challenge ahead of you, because look, even all the teams that are undefeated, or any of the teams that are winless, you're going to have a challenge, because that's what makes a league the league. But the fact is, they figure out a way to get that. Now, what have they done to keep the composure to perform the way they have?
It's putting them through stress test at practice. We run some game scenarios, and sometimes I'll deliberately tell someone to talk crap to without them even knowing it. And when you run those scenarios and then you can address it, then you can see if anyone's going to crack. You can also it prepare you before you go in. We know which teams like to play bully ball. And what I mean by that, try to get in your head. So before we even play that team, we set up different scenarios, and then we hammer it in all week long. This is what they're going to try to do, and this is how you combat it. Stay the course. Look, the one thing that we preach constantly, and more, I got more coaches on staff now, so it allows us to be able to do, is to let these young men know that you cannot lead with your emotions and trying to defend your ego, because outside of football and when you hit the streets, and a lot of these guys come from all walks of life, and they're still in the streets trying to feed your ego or protect your ego will get you killed. A wise man is one that gets to see another day.
Yes.
And that's what we're pushing hard and heavy now. And if we have any hints of you're not being able to control your emotions, then we try to corral them back and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Men are logical.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're here with Coach Jimmy Ross, the coach of the Kansas City Panthers of the Central Midwest Football League, and also he is the commissioner of the Central Football League. So, kind of sidestep with your team for a moment. You've had a couple of teams in your league that has folded or dropped or is no longer in service.
Yes.
So you had one team that has been wanting, that wanted to get in, but they seemed to get late. I know that you did not want them to come in because you had a deadline and they didn't make the deadline. But and I'm talking about the Kansas City Bulldogs.
Okay.
So saying this, are they going to be available for next season?
They have expressed interest in being a part of the CMFL, and I welcome them for when that time comes, and we'll talk about it, and also they'll get access to see what the rules and regulations are and stuff like that. But I'd be happy to have them.
Yeah.
This is the first time that they actually have requested to come in, regardless of what the circumstances are. I know the former management of the Bulldogs were very successful in bringing a culture to that organization, the titles that they've won and so on. There's a new management there now, and communication is open between them and I now, and so it's just time.
Right, absolutely. So there are other leagues around. So my question is, what makes the Central Midwest Football League as great as it is? And obviously you think it's the best league out there. But what makes it so good? What makes your league so good?
Well, there has been some. Every year we try to do something different, and I run my life this way, and my Panthers team and the league is that vision and goals, and so and I use this analogy that your vision don't stop at the windshield, okay? There's a barrier there, but ultimately you're looking further down the road, and as you're driving, you're constantly reaching that goal, okay? So in the off season, we've added a little bit more. Like, I remember where we had initially tried to do the championship game on one day and then the all-star game on another day, and then we said, why don't we just combine them and do them on the same day? And then when we did that, that was a huge success. And then we turned around and said, okay, we're in the digital age where everyone's on social media, so prepare yourselves for next year. We want to try to put out more content than any other league. Now, there's a lot of leagues out there, and there's a lot of teams out there from those other leagues that put out content. But as a whole, our league itself, bringing in Chris Dotson, him and I talked about a few things, and he had some ideas, and I had some ideas, and so our media presence has made us popular. It's reaching more people.
So, just to stop you, who is Chris Dotson? Now, I know who he is, but the people don't. So who is Chris Dotson?
Chris Dotson is the CMFL main media guy for. He oversees the semi-pro Saturday, and he also does the CMFL Sports Blitz which was put together to, if there's more than one team streaming, you can see anywhere from 1 to 4 games at the same time on the screen. So that was something new we brought to the league. Also, too, you have to look at how this league was built. It was strategically built geographically. If you look at where all the teams are placed, it makes it easy to go from this place to the next place and so on and so on. That's what makes the CMFL good. So we've been able to schedule games and not have anyone going 7 hours to go play a game. And I think that's the draw for teams to come in. So when we also, the league grew 1 year because the Great League, the Four States Football League, was going to shut down. And I remember when Sam Sturgis reached out to me and said, I'm shutting this thing down, and I've already talked to a few teams, and we want to be a part of the CMFL. So that helped out. It's hard to recruit teams, so we were fortunate enough that a little bit of was being blessed and being fortunate to be able to have those good relations with people as they decide to shut down their programs or their program shut down. And that's why, I tried not to, regardless of what happened in the past, I always try to maintain a image of respect to everyone that's out there doing it. You don't have to like me and I don't have to like you, but I still respect you for what you do because I know that you have the best interest of your ball players and your organization. So, and a lot of people make it personal, and it's not personal.
Right.
And once a lot of us got together and started not making it personal, then we were able to work together and open for new information. And come this year's championship and all-star game, we're going to introduce something else new, which we're going to be introducing the skills competition. And we're going to stream that, so these ball players can have another access and people can tune in, whether it be colleges or whoever, and see who the fastest man is, the strongest man, and so on. And I think that's what makes our league so good, is that, we just keep pushing and trying to be better than we were yesterday. Sorry,
Yeah.
I went a long way around.
No, absolutely. So saying this, you said that you don't want teams to travel far away. So does that mean that if, like, because the farthest down is Oklahoma,
Correct.
but you're mainly the 4 states area.
Correct.
So, like, let's just say a team in Minnesota, it would be harder for you to probably recruit them, but would you leave it open for, let's just say, a team in Minnesota, or
we had a team from Minnesota that wanted in, and ultimately, I told them we couldn't take them this year, and we're open for next year. We said in the off season to talk about it again. I think Minnesota has some great teams, and the Warriors down there is a great team. One of the things that would help is having a team and having that second team in Kansas City in the league, and then also being able to bridge out and possibly get someone from Iowa or Nebraska, and then that helps bridge that possibility. So we're looking.
right?
And then you still got to go on the other way too. You still got Indianapolis and Kentucky that we got our eye on, and then possibly bringing in another Arkansas team. Because if you have more than one team in an area, then you can split those two teams and kind of push the boundaries of getting to the next city or next state.
So saying this, and I know we're in the middle of this season, but saying for next season, what is your goal of having teams in your league?
I don't have a number goal, and if you start thinking number goals, then you got to set yourself up for failure. So we know that we're going to get an additional team or two. If we get one team, that's growth. If we get 2 or 3, that's growth. But we're not going to sit there and just take people just to be taking them. They have to be vetted, and we're not exempt from taking a new team. If a person has a long history of being part of semi-pro ball and gets into starting a new franchise, that's fine. We'll entertain that. But them days of bringing in multiple teams that are startup teams is over. We don't do that anymore.
So in other words, if you bring in a team, it's got to be a veteran team.
It has to be an established team.
So-
Or I'll take one new team, but that's about as far as it gets.
So how difficult would it be to bring in a new team because they don't have no reputation, they're brand new? How do you judge, or I shouldn't say judge, how do you analyze that team?
If an individual, let's say an individual starting a team has been with a franchise for quite some time, but on the lower level of management, and now they're starting a team, then they're not new to it. They've seen some of it, but they would need some help along the way, some mentorship. You know, there's teams that jump from, look at the Grove Hawks right now. They're still competitive. They're a first-year team, but they were an 8-man team last year, and they're going to be even better next year. So people will consider them as a new team because this is their first year playing in the CMFL, but they've been playing football. It's just been on the 8-man level and everything. Now that they've gotten a taste of 11-man ball with these big rosters and so on, they know what they'll have to do in the off season in order to move up.
And that's a great analyst. And you know, that's why the CMFL is so successful.
Thank you, Brian.
So, I mean, you know, you've got great teams and stuff like that, you know, and sometimes you go, well, just bring in this team, you know. I mean, the NFL just doesn't bring in a team, you know. They have to go through the process. They have to do their homework and everything else. So,
I'm not going to sit here and say that the CMFL is the end all and be all, and that we don't have our issues. We do, and we're trying to be better each and every year. We want to put the best possible product out there. Well, by saying that, you know, I mean, bad times can happen to anybody's franchise. I mean, take one of our teams, the Cougars, that has been around for a long time. And I have no doubt that they'll come back strong next year. They got good management, and they're getting ready to increase that head office staff. And so it's just that, you know, they have been running with low numbers, you know, and those days are gone. You have to recruit high and have high numbers because of jobs and all that and injuries and so on. And they realize that now. And so I've seen teams in other leagues in previous past, like the Springfield Rifles, Wichita Falls Drillers, and some of the others that used to exist. And those were very good teams and had a lot of money behind them, and they still folded. So it happens. You know, it's not just bad teams that fold. There's good teams that fold. You have to understand that every city or town that these teams in function differently. You know, we're at the mercy of being able to try to rent these fields. We don't own the rights to our fields. And that's what the general public sometimes forget when they hear adult, amateur, minor league, or semi-pro or whatever like that. As soon as they hear adults, they think that there's a lot of money behind it. It's not. You know, we're scrimping and scrapping to try to, you know, raise those funds to get guys on the road and try to rent these fields. And I mean, folding can happen to anyone. You know, so my hat's off to everyone that's still grinding and pushing, and I say keep going.
absolutely. And we're past halftime on any given, but I love it, and I'm glad that we were able to talk about this. I enjoy talking about this, and I want you to make sure that you can reach out to these people and say, how these people, because people get a perception. They see a product or they hear a product, and if they're ignorant, don't have any info, then they make their own decisions. At least now they have a lot of information that you have provided to give them a better thought process. So I greatly appreciate that very much, and that's why I enjoy having you on the show and the team and everything else. And
Brian, we can get really deep with this, and I would love to come back and explain a little bit more about it so that people understand just how we operate.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my mom was like, "Why do you guys go every weekend and play football and blah blah blah?" That was when Travis was around. So I mean, I get that. So I totally understand it, and we will sit down sometime. We'll have a group session and we will discuss this. So,
I'll have coffee.
Oh, there you go.
We'll sit down for a coffee.
Okay. Well, everybody else will have coffee. If you bring coffee, providing that you bring, look, I'm diabetic, but I have to have coffee with my sugar. That's how I drink coffee if I ever drink it. So I never drink it. But if you bring it, I will drink it.
Well, let me wrap this up so I can get out of here and go to film study.
Absolutely. So we're going to take a break. We are past halftime on Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Coach Jimmy Ross, the head coach of the Kansas City Panthers and the commissioner of the Central Midwest Football League, and just brought out some great information. And he's got to get busy getting to work.
Yep.
So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to let him go, and then when I get back, we will discuss some Royals, and we will discuss that basketball game last night. So we are on KUAW. All right, we are back for the second half of Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Coach Jimmy Ross of the Kansas City Panthers, the commissioner of the Central Midwest Football League. It was a great interview, a great show, and gave you a little synopsis of how the football is kind of ran, and we are definitely looking forward to having another show with him on there and talking more in depth about how the football leagues go. So, absolutely. So, last night the New York Knicks was playing the Indiana Pacers, and so the New York Knicks. It was back and forth game. I didn't watch as much in the beginning, so I've watched replays and stuff like that. But Indiana and the New York Knicks, they they were back and forth, shooting and gunning. But the Knicks, they were up. I think they were up 9 points with 50 seconds left. Or no, with less than a minute left. And so, and in those games, out of 1,414 games since 1998, no team has won a game when they were down 9 points or 9 or more points with a minute left in the playoffs. And this was the first time in 1,415 games that a team had came back and won it, and that was the Indiana Pacers. But here's the other amazing stat, is that out of teams that are up 7 or more points with 50 seconds or less, there's 1,743 games played. When it's like that, there's 4 teams that has came back from a deficit like that and won. And Indiana has won 3 of those games this year. In fact, actually since April 29th. So roughly within the last 6 weeks, they have came back from a deficit with less than a minute left, 50 seconds or less, and came back and won. And I want to say it was like April 29th, May 2nd, and yesterday. And it was amazing. The other one was in 2014, and I cannot remember. I had it. I had the team, and I had it. But it was in 2014. That was the first time. Now, this was since 1997. So, but anyway, the Knicks, they thought they had it going. And if they would have thought anything, they, in the first 2 games against the Boston Celtics, were down 20 points on the road and Boston. And they came back and beat Boston. If you think that you could do something like that, why would you not think that somebody else could do that? Now, Nesmith, he had hit 5 of 6 3-pointers in the fourth quarter, and in overtime, he had 20 points in the fourth quarter and overtime, and Halliburton was just lighting it up. I'm just telling you what, this is going to be a great series, but I'm telling you what, if the Knicks do not win, this is why, because they blew a big lead and gave Indiana now the home court advantage, because now they play 4 or 3 games in Indiana. They play three games in Indiana. So they have the advantage. So I'm telling you what, this is going to be pretty good. Now, excuse me. But in the Western Conference, which usually the Western Conference is always the better conference, they have the better teams and everything else. You've got Oklahoma City and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Minnesota has never made it to the NBA Finals, whereas Oklahoma City, they did it with the Seattle Supersonics, who actually won the title in 1979. And the New York Knicks has also won it, and so is. But Indianapolis has made it to the finals, whereas Minnesota has never made it to the finals. But OKC totally dominated this first game, and it was actually Tuesday night, and they had an easy victory over the Timberwolves. And I believe that they play tonight, and then the Knicks and Indiana will be playing Friday night, and so those are going to be some really, really good games. So definitely check out the NBA because, right now you don't have football going except for Kansas City Panthers, but we're off for the next 2 weeks. But, when we get a game going, I think we're going to have a home game within the next 4 weeks. I will definitely let people know, and I will know where we will find out where exactly it is. And you guys need to come out and check out this product. This is pretty awesome. So now, changing to it, we're going to go to the Royals. The Royals, they struggled against Boston. They struggled against St. Louis. The scoring runs are still they treat it like gold. They only get it by the ounce, and when they do, they do try to take advantage. But I'm going to say something, because there are a lot of people, a lot of fans that are saying, well, they can beat the last place teams, but they can't beat a good team. Now, saying this, they are actually 13-19 against teams over 500. So that's not bad. But at the same time, Minnesota is under 500 against teams with 500 record or better. The Guardians, I believe, are 500 with teams over 500. So, it's not like the Royals are playing really, really bad. And they are also minus 35 in the run differential. But saying this, the pitching has been phenomenal. They've had 3.0 ERA. Now I know that they scored. San Francisco, I think, scored like 4 runs yesterday, but they were up against a pitcher that had actually been pitching very well, and everybody was worried that the Royals would not beat them, and they did, and they scored 10 runs, and in those in games where they have scored 4 runs or more, they are 17-1 when they score 4 runs or more. It's just the other games when they're not scoring runs, they have 22 losses, I believe it is. What are they? They are 27. I believe they're 27 and 23. So they are 10 and 22 when they score 3 runs or less. And they have, I believe, 4 or 5 shutouts. So they need to get some offense. And if Coach 24 was here, I definitely would like to talk with him about that and discuss that. But maybe we can get a chance to get him on the show maybe next week or something. I know he's extremely busy, and I know he's going to enjoy the weekend with his wife Maria, because he has been away for 2 weeks. And so God bless him. Hopefully he has a safe trip back. Hopefully he has a lot of information to help the Royals bring some players into it because, you got Jack Caglione. Everybody's wanting him to come up into the majors, and he's got to go through the process. Now, he's already gone through the AA, and he's totally rocked it, so now he's going to AAA. He's had a couple of games. I believe this is his third game tonight. I know that he had a hit. No, he was 0 for 4 in his first game. In fact, I think he had like a strikeout, a fly out, a ground out, and a pop out or something like that. So, but he is going to be a flat out stud, and not to try to put a lot of pressure on him, but the thing of it is to have him and Bobby Wood Jr. in the same lineup, man, that's going to rock. And right now, if the playoffs were today, all 4 teams, and we're not counting the Chicago White Sox because they're so far down that you can't see up, but the other 4 teams, the Detroit Tigers, who have the best record in baseball right now, and then you got the Cleveland Indians, you got the Minnesota Twins, and the Royals. They would all be in the playoffs right now as we would speak if we, if the playoffs were today. And they turned around and beat 2 out of 3 out of a good San Francisco Giants team who the NL West is just like the AL Central. They have Arizona, they have San Diego, they have San Francisco, and they have the Dodgers who are leading the National League. So, the Royals, I know it gets frustrating because you want them to keep winning, you want them to win all their games and stuff, and sometimes they score only 1 run or 2 runs, and it's not enough, and it does get frustrating. But I know that J.J. Piccolo is going. He's going to try to find. He's going to find a way to get the team better. The team is good. They're not great, but they are good, and they are being productive, and they are over 500. That was the thing we were talking about. By the end of May, are they going to be over 500? Yes, they are 4 games over 500, but they are over 500 as they go to Minnesota this weekend, and in a place that Salvi actually rocks it. He did get a home run yesterday, and that hopefully will help him break out of his slump that he's in, and hopefully that we can take at least 2 out of 3 out of Minnesota and definitely go there. So, Royals just keep pecking away, and we will keep supporting you, but we will be. You guys are not called the Cardiac Kids for no reason. So, but we are at the end of Any Given Sunday on KUAW, and Coach 24 Darwin Penny and guest host or Jimmy Ross was our guest tonight, the head coach of the Kansas City Panthers and the commissioner of the Central Midwest Football League. And then we've got DJ Scatter, Mr. George Walker running the show, doing a phenomenal job, and proud of his granddaughter getting her PhD in sports medicine. And that is just completely awesome. And with that, I am Brian Kress, the Awesome Voice. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a phenomenal weekend.